Hey everybody, I am Coty Sloan and I'm here with Melissa Fisher, founder of LOL Ministry here in Punta Gorda, Belize. And some of you may be bouncing over from the interview I did with Jervis Fisher, also the founder of LOL here in Punta Gorda. And today we're just gonna have kind of a conversation about some of the deeper things that a lot of people, unless they are here and get to spend a really good time with you, and I would argue even a lot of the teams that come down don't necessarily get to spend really good sit-down time. And so we're just going to talk a little more, just spinning off of even yesterday. We talked a lot about the storyline, and I know you spend a lot of time in operations and keeping things organized here, and so I want to kind of go back and forth on some of both the emotional parts and stresses and heaviness of doing what you do, but also like just the day-to-day operations, because this isn't your typical setup. And we talked a lot about that yesterday of just, having 40 kids, but they're not second-rate anything.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot yesterday too about just like your biological kids and your adopted kids are all on the same plane.
Yeah.
So for some people even watching now saying like, okay, that's nice in theory. The idea that, okay, yeah, you have 2 biological children of your own, 40 plus adopted. Does it really work out to feeling like they're all yours all the time,
It does. I was actually just talking to Katie and telling her there really just is no difference between the children that I have carried and the children that have come to me that the Lord has brought here. They all feel like mine, which is a big weight to carry.
Sure.
I think the only thing that's difficult is how do you be a mom to 40 something children?
Yeah.
They all call me mom, and then I have grandkids on top of that,
Right.
from the kids that have had kids. And
Yeah.
so yes, they do all feel like mine, and I fight for their victories. I fight for their freedom, and just wanting to see them succeed in life.
So in the day in, day out, you guys are in a different place now than when you started
Right,
almost 12
yeah.
years ago. You've got a lot of staff now.
Yeah.
You got a lot more. Do you feel like your mother role has almost turned in to being the patriarch mother? Because
Yeah.
I know they all don't live with you day
Yeah,
in, day out,
yeah.
How has bringing on more people into the scene who are, supposed to be, how has that shifted things for you?
Oh yeah,
personally?
that's been dynamic, because originally when we started LOL, it was this huge building, and we were really the parents. We had
Sure.
childcare staff, but nobody really took ownership of saying, it is my job to impart into this child. It is my job to disciple and to find their qualities, good and bad, and even working on things where, that's not so good. You have a tendency to lie, or you have a tendency
Sure.
to cheat, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
As parents, we see both of those aspects. We see the good things in our kids, but we also see the things where, okay, we need to work on that. And so we were getting called all the time on our radio, midnight, or, we'd be right in the middle of trying to have dinner with our family, and
Sure.
one of us would have to go and work on discipline with a child. And so
Right.
that has been a huge change,
Yeah.
which I'm so thankful for, because we have 7 families now. So we have what here in Belize we call a lifestyle center, because they don't really like using the word foster families, but
Okay.
it's foster families. That's what everybody
Yeah.
knows it to be. So it's foster parents who have taken on these kids and have
Yep.
said, you're mine, and I will treat you like you're mine, and I will invest into you.
Yep.
And so it's been a huge dynamic shift, because now we are more mentoring those parents.
Yep.
We do every once in a while have a situation that gets out of control that we come in and give guidance and,
Sure.
and help get it back into where it needs to be. But that's very seldom now,
Yeah.
which is really nice.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
and so for people that have not yet watched the interview with Jervis, we kind of talk about the dynamic of how LOL, the orphanage, has made a big shift in the last few years from an institutionalized style orphanage into this idea of foster families and building a community here. So
Yeah.
if you want more detail about all of that, we're not going to go back into it. We'll talk about some of the dynamics today. But check out that interview with Jervis here on the channel on YouTube or over on Facebook or on the website, lolministry.com. And so I know that with that switch too came staffing dynamics that had to, change to an extreme degree.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, and I think a lot of people would understand, like orphanages, you hear a lot of times where people, I went to serve for 3 months or 6 months and help with the kids and help with it. So what do you perceive? I know you're in the midst of it, but obviously it's going to continue moving and growing and changing. What do you perceive being some of the biggest challenges as far as staffing? Because what it looks like to be a volunteer here is changing dramatically.
Yeah.
So like why? Really, what's the biggest change?
Well, we still have our internship program where people can come and commit to just 3 months, 6 months a year,
Right.
but they're really not helping too much with children.
Right.
They're helping with our inventory and our stocking and supplies and running here and running there.
Sure.
And they're doing all the odds and ends jobs. Our runner, it's just someone who's doing all the things that we don't have time to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we noticed was we would get people that would come in and they would commit to a year and we would put them in with kids.
Yep.
And then they would leave. And all we did was reinstate to that child a spirit of rejection and telling them again, you're going to be abandoned again, because they would get connected and they would feel this love and then it would just leave. And so we noticed that we can't do that. We really need people that are committed for the long haul.
Yeah.
And so now with the people that we have in the parent role, they are, I can't say how long their commitment is because we just are like, hey, like
you're changing the framework
exactly.
right now.
You're in the midst of it. And so we're just right now looking at it and saying, all right, how do we bring new people in? It's basically saying like, hey, if you feel like God is calling you to full-time 100% foster care and you're not here for an experience, but you're here for life, that's really where we're at. And so that has shifted a lot. And we are in need of more foster parents. We really do need more committed people that are willing to come in, and say, hey, I can take 2 or 3 kids and I can be their parent. Yeah,
that's amazing. It's an incredible even shift in mindset that to me, and we've talked about this before, so much more so reflects, I believe, the full father heart of God in the sense that we're looking past, I think what gets sold a lot in the Western world is, hey, send in $22 a month, feed this kid, and it's like, okay, well, that's great. They're being kept alive, but that's a really low metric on the scope of well-being and on the scope of what the Father would intend for us.
Absolutely.
Being kept alive is great, but I think you guys have pushed yourselves into digging into the deeper dream that's in the Lord's heart. And so it goes far beyond food and water and a shelter and clothing. And now you're talking education, and now you're talking, full on all their health needs. And we were talking a little bit yesterday about campus and now building tiny homes, because you're getting to the point where it was easy early on to say, hey, we're going to launch these kids into their dream. And I remember you even talking about like, we're helping them dream. And now all of a sudden they're turning 18.
Right.
And so I want to talk a minute about just the reality of day in, day out, what it takes to actually run LOL. And just so that even like people who are watching can kind of come into a more full scope on, because there's just so much, like we were saying, like so much of that, like, hey, $22 a month, and you're like, yeah, well, most people don't know that $22 a month is split among like 50 families and they're getting the same picture of the same child, because it's not $22 a month. So the average spend for children in the U.S. is about $1,400 a month. You guys, your average spend child per month is about $1,000. You have 40 plus kids that you're supporting right now. So anybody who likes crunching numbers, it's, that's $500,000 a year, just on basic needs. But what I think is interesting is, I mean, there's a lot of costs here that are exorbitantly higher than back in the States. Healthcare, you have a nurse on staff, which is, I mean, I'm sure a huge help. But, you know, for people who are getting involved, you know, what to you guys do you think is like some of the most helpful type of help that people can offer in just helping to maintain? I mean, because you have building projects on top of all of this.
Yeah.
So, and it's not, this isn't like a pitch. You guys have watched miracle upon miracle upon miracle grow this place into what it is. But what does it look like? What does real help look like for you guys on a numbers end that helps you sustain?
Well, I think the biggest thing right now is, you know, it's the monthly support.
Yeah.
It's really, I don't want to say easy because it's never easy to raise money because no one likes to ask for money. I particularly don't. And I have people that will tell me, you're so good at asking. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, it kills me when I have to hit send. Like, I hate it because I hate having that kind of relationship with people. But God's also brought me to a place of recognizing what we're doing is amazing. And we're actually allowing people to take part in something bigger than themselves when we ask them to give financially, because it does take a village. We can't do it all on our own.
Right.
And so monthly support is a big one for us because we can get people to, like, we just had a Christmas drive, you know, and it was like so fast. Everything came in because people love to give to kids for Christmas, which is amazing.
Sure.
But when it comes to, hey, well, we have toilet paper and toothbrush and toothpaste and groceries and the, you know, even just the fuel to get, you know, we live about 10 miles out of town, and the fuel cost here in Belize ranges anywhere from about $5 a gallon to $7 a gallon, depending, you know, since we've been here for 12 years, it's ranged in that. And so our fuel bill is crazy. It's so expensive. And even maintenance on vehicles, you know, because it feels like every week there is at least one vehicle that is going to the mechanic, or that's, you know, like, we have a bus right now, the transmission is out and we need a new transmission, but that's like $6,000.
Right.
And so things like that are being able to get that $20 a month supporter.
Yeah.
Someone that feels like, well, that's not a lot. If you're talking $1,000 per kid, if I can only give 20, but all those 20s add up, you know, all of those, it gets to the point where you are able to, then you have the money that you need.
Well, and I got to imagine it's part of it is just the reliability of knowing, like, okay, this person's, I mean, even if it is $20 a month, $10 a month, whatever it was, they're with us for the long haul.
Exactly.
We can build on that.
Yeah.
You know, and because I was like, I got to imagine from like a fundraising aspect, it's got to be like a roller coaster if it's just needs based.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, bouncing up, you know, month to month. And like even yesterday is a perfect example. You had to go up for a major dentist, you know, appointment in Belize City.
4 hours away, and 4 hours back. Yes, just to go to a dentist.
Right, at $6.50 a gallon, you know,
exactly.
and making your, I mean, that's all of that because, and you have 40 kids that have individual needs.
Right.
It's not just this like smattering of, well, everybody's the same and they all get their basic, like, you know, and I mean, and I think maybe, I mean, tell her story a little bit. Just with that one specific medical need, because it was pretty extensive for you guys last year.
Yes,
you know?
So we have one of our girls that had some extreme dental issues with the way her jaw was aligned and all of her dental structure. It was just, it was so much work. And we had first taken her to a dentist here in Belize, and they were like, yeah, well, we can do it for about $6,000 US. And on top of that, it would be one trip every month to the city. So then you add that cost onto it, you know, and every time we go up, it's about, you know, $200 to $300 in gas, depending on which vehicle we're taking. And then you're there all day, because it's like you leave 6 a.m, you're not getting home until, so it's all the meals and, you know, the dental visit and all of that. And so, I actually was able to get in touch with my dentist back in Colorado. And he donated, so he's an oral surgeon. So he donated all of his services for free. She had 8 extractions. She had 8 teeth taken out. And then she had like some impacted adult teeth that had to come down. So that was done as well. And then we found an orthodontist who I had never met. It was totally amazing. We had one set up, and when they saw her, they were just kind of like, yeah, this is not going to, I cannot do this. Like, because we were hoping to be able to do some in Colorado and some in Belize, but take the majority of the cost off in Colorado.
Yep.
And she was like, I cannot do this. This is too difficult of a case. So ended up and was just like, okay, God, I brought her all the way here. And now what? Now we've got the teeth taken out that need to be taken out, but now what are we doing in terms of getting her jaw aligned and all of that? And so a friend of mine was like, well, why don't you talk to my orthodontist? And I said, why don't you talk to your orthodontist? Because I don't know your orthodontist. Right. And like, I'm just this person out of the blue. Hey, you don't want to help me? And so she called him up and he said, come in and let's do an evaluation. So we went in and I explained to him the situation. And he's like, I would love to help you and I will do it for free. Wow. And I mean, he got teary-eyed and he was like, I needed this. I needed this. And that's so amazing. He did all of her, put all of her braces on for free and is working with the orthodontist here in Belize. Awesome. And so it's so neat to see. It's not just that we have a heart for these kids to be taken care of, above and beyond. Yes, could she have lived with her jawline and everything being off? Yes, she could have, but why? Yeah. Like, why does she need to do that? Why do we need her to not have the best? Yeah. And so it's just amazing to watch God do things like that over and over for
I think it's
kids.
One of those things too where, you'd maybe ask yourself, like, would I be satisfied with my own children?
Right.
Living
absolutely.
out like
or
that?
Myself.
Right. And then, but how often is the Lord's heart actually turned towards us in that very way? He's not satisfied with that. Why would you be satisfied with that? And just that you're able to, in essence, package that and that becomes her story. Yeah. Like God provided for her, not for you, for her, but for her. Very, because it was like a 6-week trip.
She was there the whole summer. Yeah. She was there from June to the end of August. Yeah. Wow. And constantly having dental appointments. And I took her, dropped her off. She stayed with my parents. Okay. Yeah. And my parents picked up and kept taking her to dental appointments. And then I came back for her last one and picked her up and brought her back home. So, wow. Yeah. So she was definitely blessed to get, That's awesome. She enjoyed all the shopping too.
a little like, selection, a little bit of a selection here. Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of roll back to the beginning. You guys, on your way down, packed up, dream in your heart to get here, take your time, get to know people, integrate yourself into the culture. You rock up, full tank of gas and find your place to live, and you're 7 days in, and you end up with, now when we talked about this with Jervis, but not the full story. So I want you to he told us all about getting down here. Yeah. So I kind of wanted you to pick up with that day, because he was telling us, and it was quite the day. It was the day you signed for your property. Yes,
we did.
It was the day you got 2 kids, and I think it was something else, but I think the arrangements about where you were staying.
We moved. And then someone offered us a bigger house all in one day.
All in one day.
On Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Day, yes. So Valentine's Day, what was it, 2007
this would have been 2008.
2008.
Yeah.
Tell us about the lady who came walking down the driveway.
Yep. So a young lady shows up. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning. And she shows up and says, where do I drop off the children? Where do I drop off my kids? And I'm thinking to myself, like, do you need childcare? Like, this is not a daycare.
Right.
Like, what's happening here?
Are you on your way to work?
Yeah, because we had not told anyone what we were doing. And so it was just really, we'd only been here a week. Nobody knew who we were. Yeah. I mean, very few people knew who we were, but nobody knew what we were doing. And even if they did know, it's like, we're building, like, down the road. Right. Like, and so we're located behind a school. Yep. We had rented behind a school. So it was like off the road to the back, not even like right on the road. Mm-hmm. And she said, yes, this old lady came to me in my village and told me if I don't want my kids, this is where I take them. And she explained where you live. Yep. Well, and I said, who was it? And she goes, I don't know. I've never seen her before. Well, now living here 12 years, I understand everybody knows everybody in their village. So here is
Right.
this random old lady that shows up who she doesn't know and explains to her where to take the children. So bizarre, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
so I'm like, okay, God, what was that? Some angel coming down, or I don't know
Sure.
what. But
Yeah.
so she has a 3-year-old and then a newborn baby, a 2-month-old baby. And she said, for the 3-year-old, I would like to get him back like in a year. I just need to get on my feet, and I'm struggling as a single mom, and I would like him back, but I've never wanted the baby, and I don't want him back. And here I am, just this emotion of like, oh my goodness, And so, first of all, we have nothing set up. We have not talked to
Sure.
the government. We haven't done anything. And so I go to my mom, and my parents were down. They had helped move us down here. And so my parents had come down, and I'm like, Mom, like, what are we going to do? And she's like, this is what you came here for. And so I just remember this rush of emotion and just crying and like, okay. And backstory for me, like when I had my 2 kids, I ended up and had to, at 24, be told I will never have children again. And I knew in my heart that I wasn't done. I knew there is more babies that are supposed to, there is more children that I'm supposed to mother, not knowing at all about Laugh Out Loud at this point.
Right. This isn't
God
even
had never even spoken to us about what we were going to do. I never thought to myself, oh, you're going to build an orphanage one day.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I even thought, well, in the future, And when this baby, like when the first moment I held him, God said to me, this is your son. And it was instant. Like I felt like just like a mom who had just had a baby. Like it was instant. And from that point forward, it really has been every single kid that has come in here, even if they're intended to be adopted by somebody else, while they are here, they belong.
Yeah.
So
if you're okay with it, would you go a bit more into Zeki's story? Because I know like receiving him was kind of phase 1, and it was your guys' first massive, what in the world is happening? I mean, a week after you're here.
Yeah.
So tell us about, because this is all origins, the start at this time too. So I should make mention, this is when you guys have just started, you're clearing out this property, because you're like, all right, let's go, you know? And so, tell me what the first few weeks were like receiving the 2 of them and making room and making adjustments and everything over there.
Yeah. So, we just got started right away. The 3-year-old only spoke Mayan. And so he had no English knowledge at all. So he was Mopan Maya, and we had no communication in that. And so that was fun, and we called him our little Mowgli, because he would like go poop out in the bush, and, like he would just go squat by a tree, and we'd be like, oh gosh, like here we go. He had never seen a shower before. So he was scared out of his mind, because he would bathe in the river.
Yeah.
And Zeki, of course, we then all of a sudden have this new baby that we're waking up in the middle of the night and feeding him and all of those things. And he was just such a precious spirit. He was such a good baby, and had him for 2 months. And then one day I'm at the house, and my daughter Shandice comes out, and she says, Mom, I don't think Zeki's breathing. And I'm like, Shandice, don't say that. Like I was just like, why would she say that?
Right.
And so I am walking into the bedroom, and because he was taking a nap, and I'm walking into the bedroom, and I remember like, okay, I'm going to pick him up, and he's going to do that startle, and I go to pick him up, and he's just limp, and I'm just like, okay, it's time to freak out. I just remember the room spinning, and I felt like I'm going to pass out, like pull it together. So at the time, we had another missionary family that had moved down here with us. And so I told my kids to go get Lori to come. And so she came in, and I'm giving him CPR, and we don't have an ambulance here.
Right.
And so there was no, like, let me call the ambulance, So it was like, get in the car and let's go. And so I laugh because I drove, because Lori is a crazy driver. Sorry, Lori, if you're listening to this. She's a crazy driver. And I was like, I'm going to die on the way there. Like,
an emergency on top of crazy driving.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, no, I'm driving. But I still remember it's like everything was just spinning, and it was just so much to take in. As we're driving out, we passed by our neighbor who he was also a missionary, and I knew that he was a nurse. And so I yelled for him and I asked for him to come with us so he could give CPR to Zeki on the way to the hospital. And I just remember the whole way just thinking to myself, okay, so what God must be doing is that he's going to have this baby die and he's going to raise him from the dead so he can show his power, and that's going to be our testimony. You know, like I just kept thinking there's got to be something more to this than this, our son dying like in the middle of this. And we get to the hospital and I remember just rushing in with him and just saying, help him, he needs air. And the nurse says, lay him down. And there's like this gurney in the middle of the hospital. And she's like, just put him there. So I lay him down and she comes over and she picks up his hand and just drops it and his arm falls. She goes, it's too late. And she walks away. And I am just like, somebody do something. Like, are you kidding me? Like somebody help. And I'm screaming. I don't even care. You know, I'm making a big scene in this hospital. And finally a doctor came in and he did, you know, try resuscitating him. And obviously it was too late. So then I'm thinking to myself, because I also had to tell someone to go get Jervis because he was here at the property and they were cutting down bush. And so I sent somebody to come pick him up. And so he got to the hospital. And again, my thoughts are, okay, it'll be Jervis because he has way more faith than me. That, I mean, he'll pray for him and he'll raise him from the dead. Like, this is not ending in death. Like, I just did not believe that was what was going to happen. And Jervis came and I pushed him into the room and I was like, you go raise him from the dead. And he had no clue. He didn't even know who he's walking into. He didn't know if it was Jermica, Analia, Junie, Zeki, Shannon. He didn't know what was going on. And so he goes in and he had prayed for him. And long story short, you know, we end up having a funeral. And even still standing at the funeral, I remember still thinking, he's going to cry. He's going to wake up. Something's going to happen, you know. And no, that's not what happened. And went back and I was angry. I was really angry at God. And to be honest, like I wanted to leave. Like, I wanted to go home. Like, it's not what I signed up for.
Well, I remember, and I'll jump back a couple days because, like, what most people wouldn't know is, like, I was here, you know, when all this was, I mean, the day after he passed. And I remember specifically one morning, because you guys, I mean, early days, but you guys had morning prayer time together, you know, because there aren't a ton of kids running around. And so it was actually daily, like, hey, we're getting together in the morning to pray, to be together. And you were walking across the lawn and you just collapsed in the middle of the yard because you were just the grief of a mother who had just lost her baby. I mean, and on Jervis, I mean, on the family, like it was your son. You know, but I remember that moment so clearly because I remember like what was a horrible tragedy for you guys was a gift for me, like to be able to see the spirit of adoption on people that so supersedes, I think, what a lot of people would even imagine could exist in an orphanage. Because so much of the talk worldwide around orphanages is so honed in on keeping them alive. You know, I mean, you know, I think of orphanages in different parts of the world, and it's like, well, if they're disabled, hopefully somebody in the next month is coming to adopt them because that's their only hope. You know, but to just be watching, and, you know, very early days, but just watching, you know, like he was your son, you know, and God, only God can create room for a child that isn't yours, if it's not birthed or carried by you or conceived by you guys, like, is yours 100%, you know. And I remember in that moment thinking, these are the most qualified people for this job. So while you're feeling the exact opposite thing, you have a witness there, you know, as a friend of both of you guys, like just seeing the proof that this baby got to spend half of its days loved fully and fully embraced, you know, and the beauty of that. And then also seeing like two people fully equipped for, I mean, maybe not feeling it, but fully equipped with God's heart for these kids. And I think that's what's been so powerful, and the reason that something unique is happening here that doesn't look like what everybody else is doing. And the results of these kids growing up and actually chasing their dreams is looking completely different. And the scope of their life, the trajectory of their life is being radically changed because you guys, even through Zeki, kept saying yes and finding a way to say yes. And how the testimony of that alone, you know, is powerful. So I know that whole season was, you know, a lot of struggle, toil, digging deep and digging in, because at the same time, arguably, I mean, you're clearing out this plot of jungle for God knows what, you know. I mean, it's in your head and it's in your heart, but you're like, I mean, we are at the bottom here, you know, with a very vague dream that's morphing day by day into something you never imagined it was going to be. Like here, we're going to coast for a few years, get to know people. And now it's like, you're 7 days in. Now, I mean, at this point, you're like, what, 60 days in? And you've experienced all of this, you know, but moving forward and thinking like, you know, we were talking yesterday just about like step upon step, like you guys continuing to say yes, provision showing up, miracles happening, like, and arguably one bigger than the previous before, because as your faith develops, like taking that next step, it isn't equal to taking that first step. Like there's an incremental growth that's happening because it's building on top of what God's building. So like in the last couple of years, I know like we've talked in brief, one of the mountain high moments here has been that transition from institutional, because not only what you're seeing in the kids, because their sense of belonging is just things are changing across the board.
Absolutely.
And I know you guys have seen the markers behaviorally and academically, and I mean all these things coming into alignment and moving up. So tell a little bit just about the miracle of what's the new wing, so to speak, the new community that's being built in the foster homes and that whole process, because I know it was a pretty huge step for you guys moving forward.
Yeah, it was huge. Even just the way that started. I remember just so many mornings as I was doing my devotions, just crying out to God and saying like, something is missing. I don't feel your heart for these children is happening. It's not coming to fruition. Like we're here and we're providing and we're doing all these things, but something's missing. And it was that personal one-on-one, someone loving you and discipling you and mentoring you. The very thing that Jervis talks about, like someone saw in him and was able to pull that out. And
you can't do that 40-1.
Yeah,
like,
you know, for me and Jervis, even though we were being called mom and dad, we cannot take on that role and really do quality with that, you know. And so that was, I remember just being like, God, this is not the Father's heart. This is not the Father's heart. And then one morning in Devos, the Lord just laid it out for me. He was like, this is what you're doing. This is what you need to do. You need to shift it. I want you to move into foster homes. I want you to have a meeting with your core team, and I want you to ask them if they'll take in kids. So here I call a staff meeting and bring everyone in. I said, hey guys, like this isn't happening. It's not what we want to see. And I want to know if each one of you would be committed to taking kids in, and this is shifting 24/7.
No small ask.
No small ask. You know, I'm like, so this would be your full-on parents. Like you are taking these kids in, and they will be yours, and you will be 100% responsible for them. We are not going to have childcare staff anymore. It's all on you guys. And every one of them was like, yes, 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 yes. So we wrote out all the kids' names. We laid them out, and we just started to pray. And we said, okay, God, which kid goes where? What needs to happen? And it was, as we prayed, I said, as you pray and you feel someone on your heart, I want you to take that name. And every child was picked. There was not one kid where people were like, well, gosh.
They're difficult.
Shucks. You know, I don't know what we're going to do with that one.
Right.
You know, it was just so amazing with the group that we had at that time, what God did. And we've had a couple shifts in foster parents since we started. There's been a couple people that have left and a couple people that have come on. But again, it's like God's provided through that. And so it's really been amazing to watch the transformation and to see, I wish we would have started this from the beginning, but at the same token, we have such a perspective because we have seen, and we have teams that come down and we have volunteers that come down every single year. And they have said, like, wow, like the growth in these kids, because some of these kids have lived here from the day we opened.
Sure.
They have lived here for 7 years.
Yeah.
And the growth that they have seen in them since we have moved into this more intimate setting is just phenomenal. So it's so awesome on this side. And even with building, here we're like, okay, we need to build these homes because we want these. Because the way LOL is set up, it's institutional. It is not set up.
You're on a 50-acre plot
50 acres,
here. And you purchased a 30
so
acres.
this was 25 and 25.
This was 25, okay.
We purchased the 25.
Right.
Yes.
To add on to the,
Exactly. Okay. So we started drawing up plans, okay, so what do we want these houses to look like? And just watching God provide the financial needs of that house to be built. And then even to the point where we got to the place of like, okay, now we need to furnish it. And God just gave me this vision of like, this is new stuff, Melissa. Like this is not hodgepodge. Hey, pull out your grandma's sofa and, just mix and match everything. Like it almost feels like a model home setting. Yeah. Like just, this beautifully staged, everything matches.
Right. I was like, I should preface, people can go on the website and have a look to get a feel of what we're talking about, but we were just even earlier talking about, this isn't like when we go from this campus, we like kind of have to go into the city to get a real feel of like, okay, this is different. Normal. What's here is not normal. Yeah. But why would you set these kids up to have a house that feels like the scraps from the table? Yeah. Or an education that feels like scraps from the table? Like, why would anything, if you're, truly embracing the Father's heart and his intent is to have the very best for you. Absolutely. Have a very stable, upbringing. And it's incredible what you guys have built because, and mind you, the building process here does not look like it looks in the States, so to end with a product that looks like it could just be dropped somewhere and, in the Midwest and just sitting in a nice neighborhood and there you go. And to have it sitting here in the middle of the jungle, but now, they're 3-bedroom homes where these kids have a home unit. Yeah. And because that missing piece you were talking about is just, there's the family unit, and so tell me so beyond those homes, because there's 2 right now.
There's 2 right now.
And the vision is to have...
I would say we would probably have 5 to 6 homes. The next one that we build, we need to do a 4-bedroom. Sure. We've done 2 3-bedrooms, and we've noticed that because of the difference in age, that we really need to kind of have 4-bedroom units so that we don't have a 2-year-old in with a 14, 15-year-old.
Right.
So
life stages,
so it needs to just be a little bit bigger, but it's just been amazing to watch what God has done. And when you partner with him and when you say, okay, I will dream and I will believe and I will have faith that you can do this, he'll blow you out of the water.
I was going to say, at this point in your guys' journey, and okay, so we've got this new vision, we're doing this, and knowing like what's coming down the pipe, like, we're going to do 2 more huge builds. At this point, are you in the frame of mind like, well, if he said we're going to do it, it's going to happen? Or is it still like blow you away because of mind you, when I was first here, the foundations for this building are being dug out. They're putting together rebar columns by hand. Right. It's not some like up in 3 days process. Yes, yeah. And then the financial end of having supplies shipped. Right. It's not, we're not driving down to Home Depot to pick up like boards for,
I wish.
I
wish we had
really
Home
wish
Depot.
That was happening. But have you gotten used to it? Or is it still just every time like?
I think there's a mixture, right? There's as you begin to step out in faith, there's obviously your faith grows every time.
Right.
So there's that I truly, like, literally when God tells me something, all right then, like,
Yep.
it's going to happen. I mean, I know for a fact one day LOL will go to Disney World.
Yeah.
God has already put it in my heart. That's going to cost us like $60,000. Right. And I'm like, God, you're crazy.
Yeah.
But like, I know it's going to happen. I don't know when, but like, he will put these dreams in my heart. And when I feel that there's just a knowing, you know, when I know that God has spoken to me, it's very easy for me just to be like, okay, it'll happen. And so not to say that fear doesn't step in sometimes, you know, because I'm the one looking at the bank account, you know, and so there are times when I will pull that bank account up and I will just be like, okay, seriously, like we owe more on the credit card than we have in the bank. But like the day that credit card, we are not in debt. We have never owed anybody anything. We have never taken out a loan. We use our credit card for the convenience of, number one, it gives us points. So thank you, you know, free money. And so we use our credit card and we pay it off every single due date. The whole entire amount is paid off. And to watch, like we've had times where we'll literally have a couple $1,000s in the bank and the credit card bill is $25,000. Yeah. And by the time it is due, all the money is there. And like, okay, so our monthly budget is around $40,000 US a month. That's about how much we spend a month without construction. Like construction, it changes everything. But without any of that, we only have about a fourth of that is committed monthly support. So every month we are watching God bring in $30,000 every single month, where we're just like, okay, and it's here again. I would love to not keep having to watch the bank account like that. But at the same token, I still know this LOL will never shut down because of lack of funds. LOL will only shut down when God said he's done. Yeah. That's it. Yep. And so I know even we'll have supporters, you know, big supporters, people that, you know, will give us $500 a month, you know, and then all of a sudden something happens in their life or whatever, or they've made only a year commitment and they drop off, and it's like, okay, but God always brings somebody else, you know, and sometimes it's 40 other people that make up for that one person's 400, but he always moves on the hearts of people. And so it's amazing to be on this side and watch God move. And so it's not good to be one of my friends who will tell me, but I can't because of a limited finances. Like when people tell me they can't do something because of finances, I'm like, excuse me. Like, I mean, here we sit, you know, we left with less than $1,000 a month of committed support. Right. And here we are spending 40 times the amount that 12 years ago. Yeah. And God just does it every time. Incredible. And so you stand in awe, you know, you really do. You just, I cannot understand people that do not believe that there's a God. I don't understand it. Like, I literally am like, no, if you lived my life, you would know. Like, you would know. There is no shadow of a doubt that I serve the one and only King. You know, it's just amazing to me. It's incredible. Yeah.
Listen, we want to thank you for tuning in and for spending some time with us. If you are interested in learning more about what's happening here in Punta Gorda, Belize, we'd just love for you to join us on the journey. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also visit our website, www.lolministry.com. Melissa, thank you.
Thank
as
you.
Always. And if you are interested in becoming a financial supporter, a monthly supporter, there's information on the website on how you can be involved. And thanks for your time. We appreciate you.